If you love epic StarCraft 2-like battles, but you can't do micromanagement like the pros, Mechabellum might be the game for you. Hi, my name is Ikirai, and I've been playing Mechabellum to tell you a little bit more about it. Mechabellum is an epic auto-battler strategy game where you pit giant mechs against each other. The game revolves around countering your opponent units while also anticipating what your opponent will actually do to counter your units. Winning a round means you will deal damage to your opponent's life total. The damage you deal depends on how many units are left and what units they are. Once you bring your opponent's life total down to 0, you win the game. When you jump into a game, you are greeted with 4 different starting options. These options differ for you and your opponent. It always has 2 different units and a commander that gives you a special bonus. For example, here we see some different combinations of specialists and units. Notice how even though you have the speed specialist twice on this list, the initial HP is different. The initial HP is dependent on the specialist and the 2 units below it. After picking your preferred combination of specialist and units, you can finally see the battlefield. You can now also see what your opponent has chosen, and you're ready to place your units in an advantageous position. This is very important, as you will not be able to move them after this round. They remain in that position for the rest of the game. There are some exceptions, but we'll go over that shortly. Almost everything you do has a cost. It costs supplies to unlock new units before you can even buy them. Every round you can unlock one type of unit, which is then available to you for the rest of the game. You can buy at least 2 units per round. Again, this can be increased, but we'll go over that later. Now, at the beginning of the game, you don't have a lot of supplies available to you to unlock new units. The game has 16 different units currently, and I won't go over them here, as there's a lot to cover, and that will be for a following video. Now that we know how to buy units, let's take a look at the battlefield. It consists of your deployment area and your opponent's deployment area. Both players have 2 towers they should defend. I say should, because you don't have to, but you probably want to if you'd like to win. Destroying an opponent's tower gives all of their units a debuff. They move slower, they do less damage, and they take more damage. Getting a tower early on can really swing the fight in your favor. Starting from the second round, the flanks become available. When you put a unit here, they actually need to take time to phase in at the start of their battle. While they're phasing in, your units are vulnerable to attacks from the enemy units. Now that seems like a big disadvantage. Why would you want to do this? That's a valid question. After the first round where your units needed to phase in, the following round they actually spawn instantly. Now if your opponent did not react accordingly to your flanking units, this will be a massive advantage for you, giving you maybe the opportunity to actually get a tower very early on in the fight and actually winning that fight because of it. Now we know a lot about our battlefield. Let's go over something else. At the start of every round, after the first, you'll get the opportunity to choose between 4 reinforcement cards. I'll put some examples on the screen now. These can be free or cost supplies, and generally speaking, the more expensive the card, the bigger impact it can have on the game. These cards can be a lot of different things, and I won't go over all of them individually, because I could do a whole nother video on that, and this will be long enough as it is. But generally, I would say there are 4 types of cards. Items, which you can equip on a single unit to give them a buff. Specialists, which give a buff to you in general, not specifically to a single unit. Unit buffs, this can be a decrease in cost, or making your units more powerful at the cost of more supplies. And lastly, we have active abilities. These abilities have a cooldown and can be put down on the deployment phase to either protect your units or destroy or otherwise influence your opponent's units. Now I know this is a lot of information to process, but trust me, you'll get better at it the more you play. And we're not through yet. The 2 towers that you mainly defend are not only there to give your units a debuff when they get destroyed, they actually have a use in the deployment phase as well. While in the deployment phase, you can click on each of these towers. The left one is called the command center. When you click this one, you have 5 different options to pick from. Gain 200 supplies this round, but get 300 supplies less next round. This is basically a loan you have to pay next round, and you don't want to use this too often as it can really cripple your economy in the long run. Mass recruitment increases the number of units that can be recruited this round by 1. Remember I said you can only recruit 2 units per turn? This ability lets you up that for 1 single round. Elite recruitment. This allows you to recruit units that are level 2. Now I haven't talked about this yet, but units actually get EXP when killing other units. Once they reach enough XP, you can upgrade them for a small cost in the deployment phase to level 2. This essentially increases their HP and damage massively at a small price, which is more than often worth it, and this ability lets you recruit level 2 units immediately. Now the 4th option is enhanced range. This ability increases the range of your units, all your units, by 15 for 1 round only. Range plays a huge role in this game, and having a range advantage on your opponent can be a massive benefit. The last ability of your command center is actually very similar to the previous one, but it's a speed boost. It makes sure that your units get in range quicker than your opponents. Now let's talk about the second tower, the research tower. This tower actually provides you with more permanent abilities than the command center does. The first option is an ability you can unlock, Sticky Oil Bomb. With this ability you can put down oil in a line in the deployment phase. This oil will slow down units by 55%, and yes, this does include your units. Not only that, but the oil can actually be ignited by units that use fire, dealing massive damage to tiny units that walk through it. And again, this can also kill your units. The second ability we see here is Field Recovery. Once you unlock this ability, once per deployment phase, you can actually refund a unit completely. This can be very useful when you get flanking units that your opponent has countered and are now useless. You can just refund them and use that money somewhere else. The third ability is called Mobile Beacon. This ability is a special one and it's difficult to master. It can basically be used to push your units in a certain direction. For example, pushing countering units towards a weak or important unit of your opponent. Or using weaker units to actually provide distraction for the bigger, more important units, while your more valuable units are protected at the back. I'll take the last two abilities together as they're very similar. The first one is an attack buff. It increases your attack of all your units by 10%. The last ability is a defense buff and increases the HP of all of your units by 50%. Very straightforward, but very powerful. Now, that was a lot of information, and you must be thinking we're done, but we're actually not. Besides units, upgrades, and towers, we actually still have two more things we need to cover. The shield generator and the Sentry missile. You don't need to unlock these, these are available from the beginning of the game at a supply cost, of course, and you can use unlimited amount of these. However, there's one drawback, and that's that they're single use. You spend some money to win this round right now, but the future rounds, this Sentry missile or shield will be gone. Don't get me wrong, it will definitely help you, and it is very important to use these at the right time to, for example, counter very powerful abilities of your opponent with shields. Even the Sentry missile can be a huge swing in the game if used correctly. It doesn't only do damage, it also slows the units that are hit by 50%. There, that was everything. Well, not everything. As you know, we didn't even go over any of the units and all the possible upgrades they can have, which are a core component of the game. But I'll save that for a following video. So please subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment to keep yourself posted. Check out my other vids, or if you prefer, I'm also live on Twitch on Wednesday evenings and Saturday mornings. And have a good one. See you in the next one.